agenda item 1, apologies for absence.
Apologies from Councillor Argent, Councillor Everton and Councillor Meek.
And Town Clerk.
And the Town Clerk, Adam Sharp, who's away for a couple of days.
Item 2, disclosure of interest. To deal with any disclosure by members of any disclosable pecuniary interest and interests other than pecuniary interest is defined under the C4 Town Council Code of Conduct and Localism Act 2011 in relation to matters on the agenda. Thank you. Agenda item 3, public participation. To deal with any questions or brief representations from members of the public in accordance with relevant legislation and C4 Town Council policy. In accordance with Town Council policy, members of the public wishing to speak on individual planning applications may do so immediately before each planning application. It's Tony, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tony, are you going to make any comments on any plans? So you're happy we just go straight through?
Oh, yes.
Thank you very much. Right, leads on to planning applications. Planning applications received in week commencing Monday the 1st of November. LW/21/0774 83 Stafford Road. Erection of balcony with privacy screens above existing rear extension. Who would like to lead on this one? Councillor Bourne.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This came to us as a retrospective application a few months back, and we supported it because there was no objections from neighbours, although we did ask for obscure glass as a condition. The officers at Lewis refused the application, saying that it needed to be 2.1 metres high obscured glass, and obviously it wasn't, so refused it. This is kind of the same application. It's a little bit taller than what it was before, but it isn't 2.1 metres high. The applicant's asking for mirrored glass, or if we prefer obscured glass. There is an objection this time from the neighbour early on. I'm still in two minds. Yes, I'd like to support the neighbours with rejecting it, but we supported it last time, and is 2.1 metres too tall? Our neighbours have put a new planning application with obscured glass. If we want it a little bit higher than it was before, but not as quite high as the refusal, so I'm not 100% sure.
No, just a comment. I think it's important, to take both our support resolution into account and the decision to refuse. And I think the right question to ask yourselves when you're looking at it, given the sort of complications of the two decisions, is whether the committee would have supported the application in May if they have had the current objection from the neighbour and the photographs in front of them at that time. Because I think, thinking back, it's relatively recent, I think one of the reasons that the committee supported it was because there was no objection from the neighbour. I mean, there's an application further on in the agenda that involves a balcony where the neighbour has already stated, the neighbour affected has already stated that she supports that application. So then you know that you're on pretty safe ground to support it. But in this case, we didn't have the benefit of the neighbour 81's detailed objections. Obviously, if you think those objections are totally ill-founded, then fine. But I think that's the question I've asked yourself. Look at those objections and the photographs. that was submitted with them, I think it was 7 pages altogether, and decide whether that neighbour is maybe overreacting or whether there is sort of substance in that objection, but we didn't have the benefit of that before.
Through you, Chair.
Kevin,
Sorry,
No.
I should put my hand up. All they're really doing is putting the glass round, don't they? So if they wanted to stand on the roof without balcony, they could do. So what they're doing is actually putting the surroundings so they won't actually be looking over the neighbour's garden. I had a difficulty with this one because I can see their point, but it's actually making it better for them by putting obscure glass into a reasonable height. So I think 2 metres is unreasonable because why have a balcony? You've got no views. All you can see is the glass. I'm under the mind to approve it and let Lewis deal with it because I think it's fair.
Is that your proposal?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Does that find a seconder? Not at the moment.
Jim, you want to
No,
talk? No. Sorry, Councillor Ed Lord, so I should call you Jim in this. Is Councillor Lord here?
Could worse than that.
I mean, that particular road is made up mainly of quite a lot of like large semis, aren't they, in a lot of ways, and the balconies can be quite close to each other to the neighbours, and I can see why we are where we are, if you see what I mean. I keep using your phrase now, Councillor Lord. It's what it is sometimes. And it is what it is in a lot of ways, and I can see what I can see why it was rejected, but then you're absolutely right. If you have a balcony and you can't really see out of it, then you could argue what's the point of having the balcony? But then it's quite a use of maybe to dry your washing or whatever. So especially in the summer months. But as you know, a lot of properties, if any residents are facing south or predominantly south, then they're often a lot of properties in this town do that for these reasons. And so I'll see. I'm not sure what I see what the others think at the moment. Go on, Councillor.
Councillor Lord.
Thank you, Chair. Through the Chair. I'm saying it's nearly 7 foot high. 2 metres is about 6'8" high. Well, it's higher than the door there. So it's not as if it's like it's about a metre high, 3 foot 6. Well, yeah, but it is so high. I mean, nearly 7 foot high. It's almost like a windbreak, isn't it? It's not. I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, it's basically the best part 7 foot high, 2.1 metres, 6'8", 6'9" high. Then it's a mystery why you want to do it. But
Well, one of the officers' comments is that it would get refused because of the mass of the balcony.
yeah, it's 7 foot high.
Yeah.
Through the Chair.
Councillor Borman.
If we go back to one of the questions that Jeff asked us to answer is, would we have refused it last time if we'd had the objection? And one of the things we did state was, we're not going to object, we'll support it because there is no objections from the neighbour. So I'm actually veering towards the objection from the neighbour and actually wanting to kind of refuse it, because last time we only supported it because there was no objections. Otherwise we would have objected to it last time.
yeah.
I mean, I feel that the structure they are proposing is too high. So it'd be on those grounds why I would object to this particular
But then
occasion.
they got rejected by Lewis because it was too low. So they've gone, all right, we'll put it up, and now we're going, no, that's too high now. If I was thinking, well, what can I do?
I think it's more that it was rejected by Lewis because they thought that it would be a breach of privacy and would cause overlooking, and that in order to restrict the overlooking, you would need to have screens that would be too obtrusive because they would have to be that high. So it's sort of it was, I think it was on basis of privacy and overlooking, and in order to restrict it, it would make it too ugly, basically, and so that you couldn't win either way, sort of thing. That's that's how I'd interpret it.
Because I think
But
it's
it's difficult. You can see both arguments.
Through each other, I have a suggestion that perhaps the height of 2.1 metres is too high, and the original decision of just over a metre was too low. Then there must be a compromise in the middle where it satisfies planning and it satisfies the neighbours, because to me it feels like there's been a knee-jerk reaction going from this side to this side. It's almost jumped 3 foot in height. It just doesn't feel comfortable so high, and I can understand the plans when it's too low. Perhaps it's about 1.2 metres out, it's about 4 foot, which is about that high. When you sit down, you obviously you've got privacy for yourself and privacy for your neighbours. Because when you stand up and look out, then you are looking out. But 99 times when you come out to a balcony and you sit down with your pins in the afternoon. I also feel at 2.1 metres high, you're going to need some quite complicated structural calculations, because you're forming quite a harsh windbreak against the south and southwesterly facing winds. So we need additional bracing to prop up something basically no more than a hoarding when you're on the building site. So I think we should, I would propose that in principle we accepted with regards to the fact that we think the increase in height is just too high for its position, and it doesn't achieve one thing or the other. That's my proposal. If we reject it again, it's going to come back again. I just think both sides are right, and there's going to be a compromise about 4 foot high, which is 1.2 metres. That's what I suggest to each other. I'll leave it to the rest of the... Somehow perhaps just run for the station, so...
Sorry, Chair, through you. It was the officer's recommendation in the refusal of the original for 2.1 metres.
Right.
This plan isn't 2.1 metres, it is less than that, it is that in between.
Well, if that's the case, then through your chance, suggest we accept it.
Let's check the height.
Just check, there's not many meters involved in it, what's the point? Be 4 foot 6 foot in the looks, can't we?
well,
If you think about it, you can look out the window and you can
Councillor
see the sun.
Payne,
Sorry.
Councillor Payne has already proposed that we accept this application. So you're prepared to second it,
I'll
Councillor?
second that through Chair.
And do you want to have these recommendations, what you've just said, and
At
would
1
Councillor Payne be happy with those recommendations, or
Yeah.
Councillor?
Maximum have 1.2 metres.
Okay. Councillor Borman?
Can we ask for obscured glass, not
Yes.
mirrored glass as well, please?
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Okay, for Councillor Lord?
Yes,
Obscure
thank you,
glass?
Chair.
Okay, are we all happy with that? So can I have a show of hands for supporting this
This is
application with
support
those recommendations?
provisos. That's unanimous. Thank you.
I'm not really.
All of the grey.
5.5.
Right. Planning applications received week commencing Monday the 8th of November. LW/21/0747, Chinkton House, South Amsey Lane. Removal of rear garden wall dividing Chinkton House South and Chinkton House North.
Yeah.
Lead on this one.
This should have
Yeah.
it should have been stated that it's a listed building consent application
Grade 2.
rather than a full planning application.
And it's in a conservation area.
yeah.
Councillor Vaughan,
Chair,
Councillor Edson.
the wall is a very modern addition, isn't it?
Well,
That
it's
was only put there
1983.
when they split the two,
Yeah.
that one house into two.
But it still comes under the
Still grade 2 is the building.
listed building,
Grade 2 is the Ashland River.
and it's a flint wall. They've built it as a flint
Oh,
wall.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a flint wall.
Councillor Vaughan.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It might be a flint wall. It's only 30 odd years old. And it's actually would be nice to see this house go back to the original house, so actually I support it fully.
Okay,
Through the
second.
chair, I'll second that. I lived there for some time with a lady friend of mine, and it was half the size of the vicarage, which they've now sold on to the person to make it a full house. I know the one question. I've no interest because my lady friend has moved on, but I think it would spring back as the one whole, one house. I think it's an absolute brilliant centre, so I'll second Councillor Bournemouth.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Hunman?
Yeah, obviously in that 83, I'm not sure if everyone was living in all the current houses as they are around the whole property. It's not really relevant to this application. I'm not sure the status in 1983 of those houses.
I think it's listed since then, so
Right.
every structure in place at time of listing is covered by the same sort of rules.
Right, okay. So it
Yes.
is, because we often get applications even now that with internal work on the whole lot, for obvious reasons. I'm for it, I'd support it, yeah, what Councillor Bournemouth and Lord say, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
If there's no other comments, can I have a show of hands for supporting this application?
That's supported unanimously, thank you.
Future, it's unusual actually put something as trivial as through planning knowledge, knock it down, hope for that.
Not tell anybody.
We're not telling anybody, yeah.
Right, LW stroke 21 stroke 0845 Meadows, Chinkton Lane North. Removal of his existing conservatory and construction of a single storey side and rear extension. Councillor Honeyman.
I thought it would bring it, it looks a bit tired what's already there, so I think that this would bring us up to a bit more modern standard, and obviously we're utilising the south facing side of things, so I support it.
Thank you. Is that fine?
Future, I'll
Seconded?
second you.
Thank you, Councillor Lord. Any other comments? So can I have a show of hands for supporting this application?
That's carried, supported unanimously. Thank you.
LW stroke 21 stroke 0792 Beachlands Care Home. Removal of condition 9 obscure glass in the first floor east facing windows relating to application LW stroke 16 stroke 0282.
I think you can do these two together. but
Yeah,
one-
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
There's one slight
so-
difference.
So then that's LW stroke 21 stroke 0791 Beachlands Care Home. And this is removal of condition 9 obscure glass in ground floor east facing windows relating to the same application number.
I don't think anything's changed since the original application, so I can't see any reason why we would change it. It's you know, it would then be obtrusive into the neighbours' gardens.
Well, it's yeah. I can see the point. You know, the condition was put on relatively recently, as things go. But what lies behind it is the fact that it's not mentioned in the Marine Court. Mr. Prout of Marine Court, his objection. But 10 of the 11 windows that are involved are to corridors of the care home rather than rooms. That's not mentioned in Mr. Prout's complaint. 5 years ago when this came up, it was very controversial. And what happened was, we objected on the basis that we didn't like the mass and the design and the height, because we regarded it as breaching policy relating to development on this part of the seafront. And the officers recommended refusal because there are quite a few objections, again from Mr. Prout and Marine Court in particular. But the officers' recommendation to refuse in the report concentrated on the design of the building and the view from the west and the height of it, and actually stated that the concerns about overlooking and loss of privacy to Marine Court were not substantial enough to justify a ground of refusal, because of the fact that 10 out of 11 of those windows were to corridors rather than rooms, and and the width of the road, of Connaught Road, you know, 30 metres or so was too long to constitute a problem as regarding privacy overlooking. That was the officer's view. So he recommended, or she recommended, refusal on other grounds. When it went to committee, the committee was split, but approved it, quite controversially, because the residents tried to get us to challenge the decision in the High Court. They were very upset about it. And I think, in a way, in order to meet, to sort of compromise and balance their decision against the very strong objections, they agreed to the residents' objections. They agreed to the objections from Marine Court by placing this obscure glass condition on the windows. So that's the background to it. I mean, yes, there is an argument to say, if the committee thought it necessary to put that condition on only 5 years ago, and the building's only been in place probably for 3 years, let's say, then it should be upheld. But there is a sort of a background, as is, you know. So, as I say, the committee needs to know all the facts, and the fact that the 10 of the 11 windows are to corridors which are less sensitive than windows to rooms, as far as overlooking is concerned. So, you know, as I say, in that situation, it's for you to make the decision.
Councillor Hunman, please.
Thanks for the background. I mean, you could almost argue the reason why you could probably possibly split it, and you could have some obscure down below, and then you could have some at the top. It depends on the reason why you want to have clear glass or obscure. What's the object? Obviously, it gets more lighted if it's clear.
Yes.
Privacy. I don't know what the reason is for coming back again. The corridor. I mean, people are. If it was rooms, then I'd say definitely got to be perspex. Because the corridors does change it slightly, so I'd be happy with half and half, but that's just my personal view.
I think it probably makes the corridors a bit dimmer than they should be. You know, and so this one a bit more lighted, and the clear glass is probably a bit cheaper to replace as well. But you know, they've asked for it, so we've got to respond.
Councillor Payne?
Again, I can see your point that it's slightly sort of brighter, but again, it's a corridor. You know.
Doesn't really matter, does it?
No, you know, if we sort of, they got to build it by agreeing to it, now they're going, no, actually you want to change it. And there's no real reason to change it.
Right, who's going to put a proposal forward?
Well, I propose we reject it and see where we go.
Does that find a seconder? Councillor Gorman?
I'll second that, because if we start taking back the conditions, we're left open for everything. These conditions are put in place for a reason, and I can understand they're corridor windows, and I'm in two minds to start with. Do we just say, well, the room has to have, but we allow it? But no, these conditions are put in place for a reason, and if we start opening up, then we leave ourselves open for all developments to remove conditions. So I'll fully second that one.
Right, so can we put it to the vote then?
Can I just ask before we go,
Councillor Edson?
was the compromise for the obscure grass, that was a compromise, was it?
I think it was, yeah, to keep.
The tenant in Reed accepted?
I think.
Yeah, I think it was at the time.
Yes,
I'm
yes,
trying to remember.
He didn't accept it. They didn't accept it in as much as they wanted to challenge the whole principle.
Oh, I see. They did.
I think it was because maybe having split on it, having gone against the officer recommendation, they wanted to give something back to the objectors, so that you know, because they respected the objections, and so they saw it as a sort of compromise. But I mean, what I would say in response, you know, in support of your proposal, I would go back to them and say that the members considered that the original decision of the district council should be respected, and that the conditions should not be relaxed, because that's the essence of your, you know, that's fine. Which is you know, can be supported.
Okay. So, right, can I have a show of hands of objecting to this
That's
application?
supported unanimously.
That's both of them, isn't it? Through the chair.
Both of them, yeah, there's no real difference
No,
other
I
than
thought
there's
just making sure.
one window at first floor level which
Yeah.
is to a roof.
Missed one.
Okay, thank you. Right, planning applications received week commencing Monday the 15th of November. LW stroke 21 stroke 0874 42 Farm Close. Single storey rear extension, garage conversion and replacement lean-to. Lead on this one.
Seems straight.
Councillor Bowman?
It's straightforward and I'm fully happy to support it.
Thank you.
Future,
Councillor-
I would second that proposal.
Thank you. Any other comments? So can I have a show of hands supporting this application?
That's supported unanimously, thank you.
LW stroke 21 stroke 0863 Gorse Bank 81 Furl Road. Single storey rear extension, single storey front extension, part conversion of garage and creation of a new driveway access. To lead on this one,
I tried to see
Councillor
it.
Edson?
If their house was the one that I saw on the Google Earth, you couldn't see the place full of trees. I think if I was looking at the right one,
So yeah, I think you are.
so I don't think there too much trouble about privacy or anything like that. I don't think any of the neighbours would worry too much.
No, it's, it's quite substantial, but
Yeah.
it doesn't project, it's sort of, it follows the front line and it follows the back line,
Yeah.
just infilling, although, and it, as I say, I think the houses around there are so attractive and well designed, most of them, that there's an interest in making extensions of a similar quality as well, although it's quite substantial.
Through your chair, I agree with what Councillor said and also what Jeff said. It's a large property, a large piece of land, and it's I think the nearest neighbours are in Eastbourne. In all honesty. And it's in keeping, it looks nice, it's of an excellent quality, which will again be in keeping with the area, and will benefit from your driveway. So in all honesty, I will support this application through the chair. Thank you.
Is that fine, seconder? Thank you, Councillor Edson. Any other comments? So can I have show of hands supporting this application?
That's
Thank you.
supported unanimously.
I was like,
LW stroke 21 stroke 0862 25 Caulfield Road. Erection of a single storey 10 pitch rear extension, erection of the first floor side extension above existing garage and a new first floor terrace to the rear, installation of a dormer to the front plane of the roof.
Can I ask what a mono pitch is?
Single pitch, Councillor.
Oh, thank you.
They normally say lean-to, don't they?
Yeah, but it's the name
It's
posh.
It's a posh name for a lean-to.
Any comments on this one?
Straightforward.
Yeah, I mean,
Councillor?
I thought, is it near the number 23, but they haven't objected.
Well, she supported it.
Gonna say, oh, it's a shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, it appeared a few days ago.
Right.
She ticked the support box, but all she wanted to point out was that the map accompanying the application wasn't up to date because it didn't show quite a substantial extension against that boundary, a garage extension which she had built about 8 years ago, which wasn't on the map.
Herself, yeah.
Herself, yeah, just for the sake of clarity, if you like. So, but she did tick the support box.
I will second that through your chair. It's quite a large extension, it's quite nice, it's in keeping, I have not got a problem with it at all.
Okay,
Mm.
right. Any other comments? So can I have a show of hands supporting this application?
Thank you, it's unanimously supported. Thank you.
LW/21/0877 Seaway Marine Parade. Single storey side extension. That's the Ballman.
In principle, I support the side extension. It's kind of a side rear extension. No problem with that whatsoever. But I'd like a condition that they use the same materials as the main building and not cladding like they want to put on. Because yes, it's kind of a side rear, but it looks so out of place. So
Yeah.
I'll second that.
I think
Three.
Okay. No, good.
No, I was just going to say with that condition, is it?
Well, through you, I think it's probably substantial enough to warrant an objection rather than just condition, because you're changing the design. You know, that's what you want. You want a design in keeping with the main house rather than the sort of alternative design, which they've deliberately made it a contrast, which is, you know, what you're entitled to do. But that's what I can see the point. But I think rather than just say with the proviso that it matches, I think I would advise you to make a split response and say there's no problem in principle to the extension and the provision of the additional accommodation, but that you object to the design on the basis that the clashing design is inappropriate and that the design should be in keeping with the main house.
It's in
Because I think it's strong enough to be an objection rather than just a comment, if you could accept that.
It's in contradiction to the main property,
Yeah,
and what they transform is that it's always about per semi-detached properties.
exactly.
You can, and I agree with the.
They're being a bit too imaginative. Yeah.
But
Mm.
through future, the thing is now to have a cladding. It's the in thing. Where 10 years ago it's brick and then it's block and it's render, and it's just the in thing, and they do it to just be the in thing. And I support what Councillor Bowman said, that yes, I agree with it in principle, but it's not in keeping with the actual main property. So I think we should, if you don't through your chair and through your Councillor Bowman, I think we should say yes in principle, but I object to the fact that we don't put a condition on. I to be honest with you, through your chair, I hadn't thought about objection. I was going to support Councillor Bowman saying in principle we should, but if we have a position to object to it with regards to the fact that it's not in keeping the main body of the building, and it basically wants to be fashionable, and fashionable is not in keeping, if you know what I mean.
Fashionable.
If it's all being clad up, then it would be in keeping and it would be fashionable. If it's a new building, yeah, it would be fashionable. But so through your chair, that's what Councillor Bowman said.
Absolutely,
With
you're
what Jeff
yeah,
said.
no, I'm happy to object to
And
that on the.
One further proviso with this, with these sort of applications, you'd normally put on another request another condition that it be used in conjunction with the main house, ancillary, and not as a separate unit of accommodation, separate from the main
Yeah,
house.
through your chair, that's why I said it's going to be like a pair of semis.
Yeah.
You could see it, you know.
Okay, any other comments?
Can I just say, sorry, thank you, Chair. I thought the plans were a bit weird in the sense of, I thought the extension was going to, well, they did, because it's a strange site plot as well, because it goes to the other road to the north as well, doesn't it? So you've got almost like an infill of the site. Well, I can see why it could start to look like a semi, just because of how it is up there. So I'm sure you're well aware of all that side of things. So the site plot is a bit weird, isn't it? Relative to the other ones, but then I suppose the Seafront ones often are. They've got slightly different history, haven't they? Yeah, it's a bit of a mix of properties anyway. The old Seafront and all that bit. So I support what both you say.
Okay. Right. So can I have a show of hands of objecting to this application?
That's objected to unanimously with that as a support in principle, but objection to the design, particularly to the cladding, which is out of character with the host property. Design should reflect the character and materials of the host property, and the condition not to use it as accommodation ancillary to them, not to use it as accommodation ancillary to the main dwelling and not as a separate unit
Yes.
severed from the main dwelling.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Through you, Chair, can I thank Jeff for being so thorough and proper in writing out a proper explanation, since it's like a pair of sentence. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, LW/21/0876 for Cradle Hill Industrial Estate, Cradle Hill Road, alterations to overclad the existing building to the height of the existing ridge and to form a flat roof within the parapet with the new signage to suit a new occupant, together with new parking spaces along the building frontage. Councillor Gorman?
I think we should be fully supporting new businesses that want to set up in our town, so I'm quite happy to support this application.
Thank you. Councillor
Through
Law?
you, Chair, I agree. If people are going to support Councillor Bowman on this application, I think if companies are coming into the town and prepared to alter an existing portal frame building, and make it a nice, solid, large fascia on the front, or be a large fascia on the front, and spending money in the town, I think these people should be encouraged. They may encourage other people in Cradle to do the same. I think they might be setting out a good precedent for Cradle and for the industrial estate itself. So I thoroughly support this through Councillor Bowman.
Any other comments? Councillor Hanneman?
I walked around there today, and it's interesting. I'm assuming Cinch Cars has got a like franchise. I would have thought they pretty work on that arrangement, which is basically what it is. That's what it says if you look on the
Yeah, essentially, they're probably sort of
car showroom up to a point, isn't it?
repairing second-hand cars and selling them on. Well, they deliver, don't they?
Yeah, we deliver to your home, so it's sort of.
Yeah.
But I like the concept, and Brighton. It's Brighton Assemblies, the current building. I don't remember in my time to see if it's ever been used as an assembly company in there. Sounded like it came out of Brighton somehow at one stage, or they had a separate company at this end to supplement maybe building somewhere else. So yes, that building is quite tight. It does need a complete revamp anyway, and it will complement when next door gets sorted as well at some stage.
Okay.
So support it, yeah.
Any other comments? So can I have a show of hands for supporting this application?
That's supported unanimously, thank you.
LW/21/0709 70 Bell Road, retrospective application for annex to the rear. Councillor Edson.
I just looked at those pictures. It's a separate dwelling, and you know, if I was going to park my old mum in an annex, I'd want her closer to the house than they put this down the end of the garden, and so it looks to me, you know, it's judging from the pictures, kitchen, toilet, shower, bedroom, living area, dining area. It's not what I would call a garden.
Yeah, the policy relating to granny annexes, which this is proposed as, is it should be linked to the main house, you know, really, and this is obviously not, although it's high specification. And also, it's still a wooden structure, although it's insulated, and is it suitable as living accommodation, even as a linked living accommodation? That's for me to judge, but that's not so much a planning matter. But the policy that I circulated does make it quite clear that a separate unit developed within the curtilage of an existing house as a granny unit should be linked and should not be separate. And the classic layout, although you didn't agree with the design, was Seaway, where there's a door leading into a little kitchen and then a bathroom and a bedroom. And that's the classic layout, and that means that it is possible to sever it, but you know, as it stands, it's linked. So you'd have to do work to sever it, which will be unauthorised. You know, so it's a nice looking unit of accommodation, but it doesn't really comply with the requirements of a proper annex.
Councillor Gorman.
Yeah, I think, we this a few weeks ago with Batchington Hill, where they plans were for bathroom, kitchen, everything, and our neighbourhood plan GBO6 says about if there's going to be an independent residential unit designed in the way that someone can live in it, it should be refused. If there's a bedroom, bathroom or kitchen in a building in a garden, it's refused, it shouldn't be allowed. So even our own policies, let alone Lewis local plan, and I think our own neighbourhood plan was saying we should refuse it, so I recommend refusal.
Thank you.
I'll second.
So it's contrary to Lewis local plan and Seaford neighbourhood plan on those grounds, yeah.
Yeah. Councillor Hanlon?
Can I put a comment, if they intend to use it for working at home purposes, that what they could keep it as that, if they converted the, they took the bathroom and the bedroom out, well, as long as they leave a toilet there, but if there's enough space, if they wanted to use it for that point of view, then I'd be happy if it was for, an
How
office.
do we monitor that?
An office, can we say that?
It's too big for.
Through the chairman, we can only view what's in front of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate what Councillor
I'd like a suggestion.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, though?
Because
It's,
yeah.
I'm sure that
It's different.
the application shows that he'd been advised to put the application in by the planning enforcement officer.
Yeah, fair enough.
Toby Collins is mentioned in the application, and he obviously advised him that it was, it's a it looks like a contravention, but what you can do is put in an application and see how it goes. That's the probable advice. So yes, I mean, if it's refused, then he has the option of taking out the facilities that make it into a separate unit and use it as a man cave or something like that.
Office come workshop.
If it's long enough for a darts, if it's long enough for a darts ball, dart throwing or something like that. So,
Stepping bowling alley, it's that big.
yeah, there's one before the High Court like that actually, High Kensington Bowling and cinema. But it has other uses that might be ancillary, but not as a separate unit.
Okay. Any other comments on this? So we've got on the table that we refuse this application. So can I have a show of hands of objection?
That's unanimous, thank you.
Thank you. Right, moving on to agenda item 5, Coast Guard cottages, repairs to the defence on page 6. To update the committee on the recent actions relating to the repair of the sea defence by the Coast Guard cottages, and you're recommended to note the report. This came through that they needed to act on this urgently, and this is why myself and the town clerk discussed it and gave the okay, because it's work which is carried out every year. It's just a matter of moving the boulders back into position again before the next storm.
Just for information members, just to update you, it was quite unusual for the decision to be overturned. Obviously, South Downs National Park Authority would have been expected to have spotted the requirement to submit an environmental impact assessment, but for one reason or another it was overlooked. The Sussex Wildlife Trust's objection was upheld in the High Court and it quashed the decision. So it went back to the applicants to see whether they could fund a proper formal environmental impact assessment. I understand that is being prepared at the moment. So the application for the major works, the extension, if you like, of the works is being prepared, but these are just minor maintenance works, if you like, go on from year to year, just to replace stones that are moved from their correct position. So it's a much lesser scheme. As I say, the application will come back to us for a response when it's submitted, maybe early next year.
Councillor Bowman?
Yeah, can I just ask whether we've been requested to support this financial interim previously, or whether this since the first year.
We have had this applicant,
Yeah, we
what
have.
was written, you know, which is now,
Oh yes, it's been done at least once in my memory
Yeah.
of that past 5
it was
years.
about,
Yeah, and they just say it takes half a day and it's sort of minor, and the South Downs Authority have acknowledged it as not requiring formal consent. It just usually comes to us as a sort of a landowner's formality. But because of the application being in the background, and because of the action that Linda and Adam had to take, you know, it's been put to you, Adam's request really, for your information, and Linda's request for your information.
okay, so, can I show of hands to support, to note this,
No, together.
report, thank you. Moving on to Exley Bridge, agenda item 6, for a committee with an update on construction works at Exley Bridge.
It's just an amended version of the press release that was recently issued by the County Council. We're awaiting the South Downs National Park Authority's Planning Committee report on it. There's a meeting next week, but it's not on the agenda for that because I've checked, so it'll be early in the new year. There is a feeling that there's a rumour that the South Downs Authority aren't completely happy with it, which in a way is not surprising because it's their job to look after the national park, and this is clearly going to be a bit of an intrusion into the national park. But you know, I think hopefully in the end they'll come to an arrangement whereby the Parks Authority can recommend approval and can go ahead. But we'll see early in the new year, you know, what the National Park Authority think of it.
Is it actually in the national park area? I thought it was going across the field in front of it, which is...
It's all national park.
No,
Is that-
it's both national park.
Oh,
The
right.
boundaries at the top of the hill, or yeah.
When you see the Seaford
Yeah,
side,
when-
that's where it starts.
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
When that last house goes, yeah, when you start to go down the hill, there's a notice there.
There's a big rusting sign there.
Is it?
Very rusty.
Councillor Foreman?
That's where
Yeah, yeah.
Southdown National Park.
Okay, please, sorry,
Sorry, I have heard that part of the issue with South Downs National Park don't like it is the lack of support for walkers and cyclists rather than the bridge itself.
Yeah,
So
because
that's where they're having their arguments kind of over at the moment. But that's one thing we said as a committee,
yeah,
a pedestrian crossing across that road, across the bridge is what's needed,
Yeah.
and
that
cycling.
should be quite
that
easy
is-
to adapt. Yes, because the two main pledges of a national park, statutory objectives, are to protect the character of national parks and to ease access to the national parks for leisure purposes, you know, for the people, if you like, which is different from an area of outstanding natural beauty, where the access point isn't such an issue, which was an argument in a way against the designation. Some people use it as an argument against the designation of national park because they said it had enough protection as an AONB, but that's ancient history now.
yeah.
But yes, access is something that they have to take very seriously, and obviously this is an important access
Yeah.
point. So
I think we also requested that the weight restriction should remain
yes,
on
yeah.
that bridge to keep the
You still
heavy vehicles
You still see
going.
road lorries going down there, yeah, all the time, yeah.
Obviously, they're going to keep the existing bridge, so I'm sure that'll be either cycle and pedestrian route, or are they going to have additional?
They're going to take
Oh,
it
this is
out.
what-
They're going to go across rather than
So it's going.
at an angle. Yeah. I mean, they should.
I want to keep in the original bridge.
I think it's roughly where the bus stop is
Yeah.
at the moment.
Mm.
It's going across.
Yeah.
And I think they'll be building it, and then once it's built, then the old bridge will come down.
So maybe I misread that. I thought they were keeping it. Maybe historically they're going to keep both of them.
So what they're going to do,
Yes.
so they'll come down, sweep downhill and do basically a curve left and cross over it and join the existing road about 100 yards down. The existing bridge will be kept in place to the last possible minute.
Right.
Then they open the bridge up, then they take the old bridge out because Old Bridge is needing so much maintenance, it's come to its natural working life basically, it's nearly 80 years old. And for Lucia, you're quite right, we have day aggregate lorries carrying 30 tonnes of aggregate from New Haven right over there, and I go use that road at least 3-4 times a week, and I've never gone there 3-4 times without seeing a day aggregate, the company aggregate from New Haven carrying the spoil across there, and it's accompanied by almost every other single articulated lorry you can possibly imagine, and the police don't enforce it, and now the Highways Authority. And when this new bridge comes in, I have a minimum weight limit of about 100 tonnes, which is working more about 50 tonnes. So that will then allow basically full, and it's curved also to an angle suitable to articulated lorry. So where they've got to really go all the way around and come back down and hit the barrier, they'll come down, sweep the way around, allows them to come from Eastbourne, and then sweep way up the hill. So it's making it more accessible for heavy loads, but unfortunately that's the way you're going to end up through the Highways Authority, which is completely different from Exeter National Route. I'm from Surfdale National Park, so three conflicting views. That's as I understand it. But having said that, the bridge now only fit for horse and carts anyway. It's probably like 100 years ago, so 80, 90 years, just after one. Was it before or after one? Do you remember? Freedom Coast War, do you remember? No.
Like she was here to know that one, Jim. Councillor Lord.
Can I just have one other thing about
Councillor
I finished
Edson
that.
first.
Yeah, as I understand, that bridge was put in by the army, because the existing bridge would just about carry a horse and cart. So that bridge was put in by the army for the First World War.
100 years old now.
Yeah.
Councillor Hanneman.
Thank you. Just to come back, obviously what Councillor Lord just said. I mean, the thing is that we're now in this generally of the 0259 going down the hill from the outside of the Seaford going down to the bridge. They're not widening that, so they're still going to have problems with. You know, you get larger lorries going both ways. I mean, you know, at the moment you've got two buses going each way. It's not always easy, is it? Number 12 in that case on the Post Road. It's not straightforward, is it?
No.
We'll know the report.
Anyway, you're asked to note the report, so can I show hands of noting the report?
Thank you.
Thank you. And then on to agenda item 7.
Yeah, not many.
There again, the committee's decisions taken by Lewes District Council applications previously considered by this committee. There again, to note the report unless there's any questions. Councillor.
Just as an aside, have we put in the application for the Catherine toilets yet?
Yes, and we put it in early October, and the consultation period finished last Friday, and the indications are that it will be recommended for approval, subject to a few bits of additional information that the case officer requires, which Tony Jackson has supplied. And because it's a relatively substantial town parish council application, the rules say that it has to go to committee for sort of transparency. So it's likely to go to committee January the 12th or February, but hopefully January. And when it does go to committee, I'll go and support it, because it's worth supporting.
Oh, God. Yes. One more question. 42 Fern Road?
Sorry?
42 Fern Road, have we heard any more of that?
No, I haven't heard any more, but the enforcement officer is onto it.
Yeah.
So
I've noticed there's blacked out the gates now, so you can't actually see if there's anything going on.
I know.
You can see there's no building there anymore.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'll have a look at his latest response, and I'll get back to you.
Because people keep stopping me in the road saying, what's happening with it? You know,
I might not have sent you his latest response, but I'll check that later.
Thank you. Councillor Bournemouth.
Thank you, Chair. It's nice to see that our refusal for the 2 trees was actually abided by. So we won't get back into trees too long tonight. I don't know if anyone's been watching Homefield Road and number 3. The conservation experts put their thing up. It still hasn't been, no judgment on it, but they've rejected the turrets. But the conservation expert has approved the other application.
We have the garage in.
No, not with the garage, no, the garage, there's no
No.
garage in the
Garage was
application.
taken out.
So there was two applications we
Oh,
did a
there's
few
so
weeks
much going
back.
on
Yeah.
there.
Perhaps there was
One
a
with
bit of-
turrets, one without turrets. The one with turrets they've refused,
But the other one.
but the other one, it is, they have the conservation experts approved, so watch this space.
Right.
It doesn't
Well, it's not
surprise
going
me,
to the
actually.
next Lewis meeting, is it?
No.
Which is on the 8th
What's
next week.
Who you
So
chose now?
it'll be on. It may go to January the 12th when we're there for the toilet. So I can maybe.
Yeah, no, it's worth putting up. I might come up myself.
Might have to make a little address on behalf of the council for Eastmoor House as well, but we'll see what the agenda says.
So
I'll let
it's
you
a
know.
weekly check. It's a weekly check, that one.
Yeah, no doubt the neighbours will be there to support the objection as well.
Okay, there's no other comments, we know the report.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
and that concludes the meeting at 8 o'clock.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, no.